So, hello, Amy, originating from Dartford, Kent.
From Dartford, Kent. Glamour.
And where were we talking to you? Where are you now, Amy?
I am in Bondi.
Very nice. Have we got some sunshine in Bondi today?
Well, Bondi's a bit shitty today. I feel like the whole of Australia is a bit shitty at the moment, isn't it?
Weather's not brilliant, but we don't like to admit that, do we?
Huh?
We don't like to admit it to the outside world.
That is very true.
Thank you so much, Amy Lynch, for joining us at Fire and Forte. I am so excited because I slid into your DMs after hearing about you through one of my friends who you have been responsible for really giving her a fantastic time since moving to the Bondi suburbs. So I've been looking at everything that you do, and you're the founder of Bondi Beach Babes, but not just that, a founder of a number of businesses. You are self-employed consultant and you're an operations manager with the Chamber of Commerce. Is that still part of your... Right, so I don't understand.
That's still in. No one really understands my work life.
So can you explain what you do and how you divide up your time? Maybe not how you divide, just who you are, what you do.
So I'm actually a teacher by trade. And I still teach a little bit at UTS for a couple of days, and then that's kind of the backbone of things. And then in between that, then my passion is community and kind of getting people together and doing things creatively. So along with the teaching, I then do kind of lots of things to help local businesses, so run things or help run like the Bondi Festival and some kind of big events down at Bondi. And then during COVID, we set up Bondi Beach Babes, which kind of actually came out of a bit of a sad place. It came out of feeling really lonely, like we were talking about before, sort of friends moving up to the Central Coast during COVID, and then realizing, good shit, I don't know who are my people. So we set up this community that was a friend and I set it up, and then it sort of exploded. Has now got nearly 7,500 women in it, which is incredible. I do the big events in Bondi Beach Babes, and then 4 weeks ago opened a pub. So now officially Peggy Mitchell.
I can see it now. Now you've said it. That's it. How good! Wow.
Yeah.
That is, and you still work for the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Yeah. So I kind of balance my time not very well, to be honest, between those. Yeah, mainly between those things, and then I also do some social media kind of work in the background. But I think they all kind of have this common thread of community, helping people, getting people together, and they all, sort of nicely, that they're not so distant from each other, all those different things.
Well, it sounds like you can't help yourself, to be honest, as well. There's obviously something that you're good at and passionate about, and then you maybe get involved in lots of great things because of that. You can deny or agree with that maybe at some point, but I'm really interested in what the courage that you had to actually go after Bondi Beach Babes, because wow, it's not a unique feeling lonely at any time, let alone during lockdown. So was that a scary thing to put yourself out there and actually do?
Not scared. I think not scary, because I think I'm someone who just, puts things out there and just sees. I don't have fear around failure, so I don't really care so much. I care about what other people think, of course, but an idea flopping, that's never been one of my fears. And I didn't, to be honest, with any idea I have as well, I kind of, obviously I've always wanted to do well, but I never really look at it so far in the future. I just think, okay, let's see what happens now. And like I was saying to you, I had a really shit time during got very depressed and was not doing so well at all. And I kind of always think I'm like a solutions person. And I was thinking, I was like, right, what's going on? And the problem was I felt lonely. So, okay, what's the solution? I need to meet people. I'm like, well, I need to do something. I'm good at bringing people together. What can I do that I enjoy? Like we were talking about our mutual friend and running all these activities. I'm like, I enjoy being active. Okay, let's get a surfing program together and let's get some women on that who I can then meet. So I kind of wasn't it, and then we didn't expect it to be so popular. I literally thought like 20 people would join. But I think so many women join, a lot of women, and I think the older you get, you have, especially us being expats living in Australia, I think you're so used in the beginning putting yourself out there and meeting new friends, and you kind of throw yourself like into these really weird scenarios. Then you get that big network of friends that you go through so many life events together, and then when they've gone, you're like, what do I do? So I think I didn't, it wasn't scary because I didn't expect the magnitude to which it would grow.
Yeah. So what was the first step that you took?
A Facebook post.
Okay.
We literally just put it up and said, what did we do? We did a brunch, a boozy brunch. And we put it out there and we just said, look, we're creating this community. Anybody want to join? And we had like 40 women come straight away. But I think the really beautiful thing that then happened out of that, like, yes, they all showed up, but then after the event, everyone kept in contact. So it was really lovely. Like I was walking around Bondi and I'd walk past a bar and there'll be two girls in there and they're like tapping on the window, like, here we are. So I think it just I think the nice thing about that group is it's created these friendships that have just gone beyond the events. Like it's been really lovely.
Really a friend matchmaker, to be honest. All that someone needed was someone to almost get some similar people together. Yeah. So it was after lockdown, was it? Or was it kind of in between lockdowns?
I've sort of lost track of all time. I think it was in between lockdown. COVID was definitely going on. It must have been in between lockdowns or I can't really remember.
Because I mean, thank goodness you could have a brunch and then meet together. I was also thinking what happens then because we had lockdowns on and off for obviously 2 years. What then was Bondi Beach Babes around while those people that had met in real life then got back into being locked down?
It was actually, now you say that, because we ran, it was definitely in between, because then we started running for a little while. We did online events. So we did, what did we do? Like a margarita and makeup tutorial. So we had and it was really cool. Like we had a local bar making margaritas and everyone ordered their kits and stuff like that. We ran stuff during lockdown as well.
That sounds brilliant. And the ideas, what kind of events have you put together then for this group of women? And have you ever had 7,500 people turn up?
Not yet.
That would be a bit alarming, wouldn't it? What are we going to do with you lot?
So all different stuff, like we were saying, like the boozy brunches and those kind of events. But I think for kind of where we realized where we could also really help, like Bondi has really struggled with all the tourists disappearing, and for me, like I said to you before, like my passion is just how can this help. So I realized there was sort of an opportunity between Bondi Beach Babes sort of matching with local businesses. So we started to run more events where we were driving, or still are, girls into businesses. So like the surfing, we do like jiu-jitsu, ocean confidence, free diving. But then also on the site, there's also then stuff like there's a book club and there's a run club and a walk. So I think the nice thing about Bondi Beach Babes is the variety. Like it's attracted women of all different ages and backgrounds, which means that when people get together, no one kind of feels awkward because everyone's already a little bit out of place. So there's no like clique because it's this really diverse community. And I think the nice thing that we've been able to create that I haven't been to before, is women often come on their own, and they come, and like I had this girl show up and she's like, oh my God, I have never been this nervous. Like even going on a date, she's like, I am so nervous. And before they come, girls will often say, okay, we'll meet you outside and we'll bring you in, because obviously that's the scariest bit, is walking into a room of women that you don't know, and then you have to try and talk to people. So yeah, we're all different things, but it's been really beautiful.
That's incredible, because I think there's probably a broad age of people, isn't there? And you could kid yourself into thinking that you're quite confident, but you're used to your own network of friends. And like you say, things change. So have you found that people are out of their comfort zone no matter what age and no matter what background, even though you might think, well, you're just meeting people and we've been around for long enough, we know how to do that?
I think if you're going on your own to something, I think you'd be a very rare breed of a human if you don't feel awkward walking into a room on your own. I think there's this myth that, you're going to walk in and just walk up to, like, everywhere. I hate it. Like, I feel the most awkward human doing stuff, like trying to strike up a weird conversation with someone you don't know. Like, it's horrible. Unless there's some alcohol involved, and then you're all right.
Well, just before this phone call, just before we pressed record, I told you about going to a networking event only yesterday. And I thought to myself, the word networking is just talking to people, isn't it? But this was proper networking. And I was very tempted to go and sit in the toilet for a bit. And I thought, come on, you've got this. So personally, I think it is a skill that's worth pushing on, but I always want to be mindful that it's hard for everybody, but maybe some people find it even harder than other people. Do you kind of keep your eye on people to make sure that they're okay through an event?
Any Bondi Beach Babe stuff, I mean, first of all, the premise is, a lot of people are on their own, therefore make the effort. And like I said to you, a lot of time I will say to the girl, okay, if you're coming on your own, you feel scared, here's my number, I will meet you outside, I will walk you in, and I will put you, I'll introduce you. You just need one person, right, that you feel comfortable with. So I think as long as people have got one human that they can come back to the toilets from and be like, oh my God, okay, I know that you're here. And then, I think now what's really nice is lots of the girls come back to the events, and there is this little family that's been formed, and most people came on their own at some stage. So I think now people are conscious. It's like a little ripple effect, isn't it? I think now someone's like, oh my God, I know how that feels walking in. I'm going to go up to them. And but I will keep my eye out. But I think so will the community. They're always sort of looking out for each other anyway.
Yeah, it's a great skill, isn't it? Because if you've probably given them confidence in other areas of their life, because if they were quite well, you just wonder, because if you are going through a lonely patch, your confidence actually can dip, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Rather than when you've got a bit of a gang of girls and you have a good weekend and you've got a difficult meeting the next day, that you can chat to your mates maybe that night, or you think, well, I succeeded at that thing that was quite scary, surfing with some new friends. Do you think that people's confidence developed in themselves from joining that community, especially after lockdown? Maybe it had a ripple effect in a positive way for them.
I think originally during COVID, people were going through so many mental health battles. And I think the group in the beginning really helped with people's mental health. So we had lots of messages come through that we didn't know how to deal with. Some from women in abusive relationships, trying, during lockdown with somebody who's abusing them. We had women who were suicidal. One woman in particular who messaged Sarah and I saying she was literally going to kill herself. And then somehow or another, a day or 2 days later, she came to an event, sat and was in tears, and just said, this group has really saved, I can't think of a better word, but, really helped me. I don't I don't feel like that. I was on the verge of taking my life, but now I realize I've got people who will listen and help. And I think it really helped with people's mental health.
That's given me goosebumps because
Oh.
you've given someone hope, and that really is quite a message and a reminder to us all, really, that actually it's only a conversation to someone, isn't it? Because a lockdown was extreme, but if you're lonely even outside of lockdown, if you're stuck in your own head or you feel as though no one else is around, you feel miles away, and it can take one coffee, one conversation, a group of girls who you barely know but you feel comfortable crying with, to give you that hope again, like you say.
Yeah, totally. And I think that also might be how it grew so rapidly, is and also that nice feeling, like you were just of getting goosebumps, like realizing, okay, I'm meeting people, but also I feel good about meeting these people. And it wasn't all, yes, we had boozy brunches, but it wasn't all about let's meet and get pissed. It was also around, okay, what can we do? Yes, what can we do to, push ourselves, like you were saying, like try surfing or try jiu-jitsu, or, do something where you feel like a bit of a knob because you don't really know what you're doing. But everyone did in that scenario. So, yeah.
So if someone was watching this and they were from our hometowns or from anywhere else, is there some advice that you would give if they're in a similar situation?
I think in a similar situation of feeling lonely, do you mean? I think, never be scared. I think there's always people who are the same. Like people feel the same regardless of what they might be giving out in the world. And I think just don't be scared of putting something out. Like I always think, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, that Facebook post, nobody replies. But who cares? Like if no one's replied, no one's really read it or engaged with it. No one's I don't remember any Facebook posts from this morning that I've read, let alone, like, doesn't really matter. So I just think don't be afraid of putting stuff out there and seeing where it goes.
I think that's great. Strike up a conversation with a stranger, you might just make their day, because totally. And don't be scared, like you said. I don't know what we are worried about sometimes, even saying good morning to some people. You think they look grumpy, they won't want to say morning. If they don't say morning, back to me, then what's the worst that can happen? I'm just going to say morning to the next person and they will say good morning back.
Exactly. I waved at somebody yesterday. I thought I saw my friend yesterday, and I was feeling a bit shitty, and I haven't seen them for a bit, and I was like, oh God, I could see, when you see someone approaching from a distance, I was like, do I do it? Do I not? And in that scenario, I always go bigger. I'm like, of course I'm going to say hello. Like, hi, here I am. And at that moment, as I was I realized it was someone I didn't know.
And you went that big?
I went super big. He just looked at me, completely ignored me, didn't even give me like a little nod or anything. Just
why is that woman jiggling around in my face?
Who is she?
You might overhear someone in the pub saying, oh my God, I was walking past this lady.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by your message and approach around fear the fear. You've never felt the fear of failure. And also this, don't worry about it, what's the worst that can happen? Have you always had that, or is this anything that's developed over time?
I think I've always had it, but it doesn't translate into every aspect in life. So I do have a lot of fear around, like, if you got me to stand up and do a big talk in front of thousands of people, I would be absolutely petrified. If I had to walk into a networking event on my own, I would be afraid. Like, I think I definitely have fear, but I think fear around my ideas failing, I just think, that I don't have fear, that I don't care throwing stuff out there.
And have you found, did it take some time to find your thing? Because that sounds to me like you've got your thing, because most people would be terrified of everything that you do, or I certainly think, I think I wouldn't dare, but it would take me a lot to build a community, even to turn up to a community. Sometimes I think, I'll just do my own thing. So did it take any time to find that was your thing and you were going to go after it? Or have you found that throughout the years, you've always created communities and put ideas out there and just then seeing what would happen?
I still don't know if it is my thing.
I reckon it is.
I'm good at our family always hosted really good parties. Like my dad and mum are like the our back door was always open at home. There'd be people coming in for cups of tea. And so I think I've come from that background of getting people together is a really lovely thing to do, and having fun and being stupid and all is a lovely, like being quite childlike, like our family, childlike in lots of ways. And I think it's come from that. I don't know if this is my thing, if the pub is my thing, like, but I think I know that I like, making community and being creative. I think I know I like those things.
I honestly think the world needs it so much. We need one of you where I live. And probably, but have you ever? Oh, crikey! Yeah. Oops, what have I done? Have you ever thought about expanding that business, or have other ideas come up?
Bondi Beach Babes?
Yeah.
Bondi Beach Babes, yes. We originally went nuts in the beginning, and we were like, let's do Byron Beach Babes, let's do Burley Beach Babes, and we bought all the domains and we set up all the Facebook pages, and I went back home during COVID and got stuck there for a year and attempted to set up the same thing back at home. But I think something like Bondi Beach Babes, it needs physical presence. It doesn't work if you're like, okay, we're going to do a brunch and so is going to run it. It just, people are quite not flaky, but people really need someone to hold their hand in that type of scenario, and they need somebody that they sort of know off of the internet who's going to be there. And we did try in those communities, and we tried to like employ somebody to be, the host of these events, but it didn't work. So, and in terms of time, I think Sarah and I with Bondi Beach Babes really wanted to focus on getting that community as good as it can be, and then focus on other things. And then she had a baby and I birthed the pub.
Okay, so let's move. Well, I mean, quickly talking about your beach babe partner, because we've not referenced her. Quick introduction into Sarah. So you two are friends who built it together?
Yeah. So we're friends through the Chamber of Commerce. So we knew each other in a bit of a work capacity, but we've run lots of events together. So we knew that we had that background of events. She used to run events for the Bucket List and different bars in Bondi. So we both had that kind of background of doing it. And then I talked to her during lockdown about feeling lonely. Her mum was also struggling quite a bit at the time, and she was like, okay. And so I don't really know how it happened, but somewhere along the conversation, so it's the two of us.
Excellent. So you're twin souls to some extent.
Yeah.
So tell me about, she's had a baby and you've opened a pub. Please tell us more about that. That is a really bold, cool, great thing, because also Sydney does not have good pubs. So
no, agreed. It does now.
Yeah. Tell us more.
So again, I feel like all these, I think for me, and like nothing, and maybe this is for everyone, the best stuff has come out of random scenarios. Like I've never had a proper job. They've all come out of random things in some way or another. And on the back of Bondi Beach Babes, we were running a dating night at a local bar called the Corner House. And I came up with the idea to do dating in the dark. So we blindfolded the girls, blindfolded the guys, and they were in this sort of room off of the bar, and they'd have a date in the dark, and it was bloody brilliant. Like,
what a unique idea. I mean, I'd have to cheat.
Yeah. But it was just such an interesting like social experiment as well. Like people were attracted to people who they wouldn't have been attracted to. Like it was really, really interesting. So I was running that, and the guy who owns the Corner House was helping me to run dating in the dark, like just helping with the logistics of it on the night. And we became friends over that event. And again, realized we're like, oh my God, we work really, really well together. And on the back of that, he offered me a job. He was like, look, I would like someone to come and do events. Do you want to come around events? And I realized, I'm like, look, I have too many side jobs. I'm looking for one particular job. And then we sat down, had a coffee, and he was like, well, if you're looking for something big, I've got a bit of a crazy idea. I'm thinking about opening like an English pub. What are your thoughts? And then we had the chat, I think like on the Monday, and we signed a lease maybe on the Thursday.
Whoa. Can I ask financially how that
Yeah.
works without you going too much into how do you find the funds? What kind of funds do you need to get into that?
You can be very creative with how you make money. So for example, say we signed the lease on the Thursday, we picked the keys up on the Monday. On the Sunday, the next week, there was City to Surf in Bondi. So Ben's strength is Ben is really very good at creatively making money. So we realized that in Bondi, there were just marquees down on the beach this year. So, and there were all these corporates looking for venues after the race. So we managed to host 500 people from Amazon on the Sunday. So that was a big kickstart. That basically was a huge kickstart into the business. And then also the venue that we took over, the people who had the venue before, they walked out on it during COVID. So it wasn't like we were decking out, like building a whole new, but a lot of the stuff was already there.
Okay.
So yeah, we got a big kickstart from City to Surf. And then we've been creative as we've gone along in finding these kind of big chunks of money. And I've learned that from Ben. That's his skill.
So you're quite forward in terms of approaching people and approaching ideas or potential customers or clients, I suppose. Is that how Amazon came about?
Yeah, they approached his other business, and they were looking for a venue. And then we realized during City to Surf there was just a desperate need for these big corporates to be somewhere. So it was everyone was a winner out of that situation. Like they had this amazing venue, we got some capital to start the business. Yeah.
Amazing. So it is just the two of you, is that right? And you're managing everything from supply, stock, food, drink, menu, finances, payment. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work? How do you divide? Are you finding that you're good at some things that you didn't realize you'd be good at, or are there some areas that you're just finding you really don't enjoy?
Yeah, in terms of how it works, it's chaos. Like, don't get me wrong, like it is pretty chaotic. And yeah, I think whenever you start a business, you are all the people, you are the marketing person. You like, it's hilarious. Like people are phoning up my phone and trying to book in the pub. I'm like, oh, and I kind of forget. I'm like, oh, I should probably answer it with like, hello, this is the English place. And yeah, I think we're managing it. We've got similar skills and very different skills. Like I'm not very good, like I said, financially with thinking about, how we get capital and what, budget. Like the money side is Ben. He's super good at that. We both have these skills of putting on really, really good events. And then between it, we kind of muddle through.
I think the events is a brilliant idea, actually, because I suppose you can't just assume to open your doors and that people will come. I know that's what you really hope because you've got a beautiful building, good menu, good drinks, but actually the events is a reason to go somewhere that might actually get people talking as well. Have you thought about doing a dating in the dark in the English place?
We have thought about it. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but maybe. And I think also for the pub, that was also a little bit of a sister of Bondi Beach Babes. Like Sarah and I had this actual idea out to do a co-working space. for women mainly, and mainly kind of focusing on mums, and then stuff happened and we just didn't have the time. So I think the pub is not a co-working space, but it's also, again, I wanted this space where women could just come, or whoever could just come, feel completely at home, and the type you walk in and people. Like, I really want it, and it's becoming that type of vibe. Yeah, so there's a big overlap.
We need this more than ever, don't we? I mean, now
Totally.
we all walk around with our headphones in. We don't talk to strangers. We go and get coffees at different places. There aren't really local pubs as much anymore. And that is you might not even know someone's name, but you can chat to them at the bar
Totally.
about
Yeah.
their dog or about their weekend or about the weather. I think that is it could be regarded a small thing, but would make the world such a more connected place if there were more places
Totally.
like that.
And again, it's kind of a thing for men, for the men. Like, we got so many asks of, can't you do a Bondi Beach Babes for boys? I'm like, it won't work. Men aren't on Facebook talk, like, Bondi Beach Babes girls will say, like, anyone know a good gynecologist? Or, like, there's no kind of, they don't really care. They just ask for advice, and then people are very open. Whereas I think men aren't on, like, men don't do that on social media, or aren't on it. So I think the pub is actually quite a nice base of, there's men that sit at the bar and have a good chat, and they're all, I think it provides that type of place where, like you say, they can come and just talk to somebody.
I did read recently, I think it was a London article about single guys being in their 30s, a quite lonely, detached group. Right. And this journalist was saying, you think that women can get more and more picky, and we kind of celebrate the fact that we are picky, or don't settle for not great, or don't settle until you get the best. But actually, there's a big group of guys who aren't as naturally inclined to keep in touch with a group of friends. And I started to think that maybe that is a potential big issue, because if you were a guy that used to play football, the football kind of starts to tail off. Going to the gym is quite a solo exercise. So yeah, do you think there is a role for community groups like Bondi Beach Babes for guys? Has that been, I mean, obviously people have suggested that to you, but what's your view of that?
I think there definitely is. I don't know how, I think I know in Bondi, and there's groups like, there's Fluoro Friday, which started out from surfing and helping people and starting this conversation around mental health. And I know that there's also quite a lot of community groups locally who do the whole, like, ice baths and, man walks and talking. But I think there is a miss in people who actually don't, aren't very, there's this link between sport and mental health. But I think, how about the people that don't like sport, that isn't really, I don't know what the solution is, but yeah,
I think that's a good point. Yeah, if you're not sporty, if you're not into what's the next thing. Yeah, I was actually talking to some people about technology and developers the other day, and saying they were, preferring to work from home and not coming into the office. And then we were saying, again, it could be a vicious cycle, that, you might be introverted or prefer working on your own, but actually the office does force you to talk to people and force you to be a part of something. So if you can't literally drag someone in the office and say, this will be good for you, I know it will be, but how do you encourage them? So I don't know, maybe more to discuss and ponder.
Yeah.
You're very creative, it seems, with the ideas and the events that you come up with. So 2 questions. Can you give me a few of the events that you've created? Because having heard about surfing and dating in the dark, it sounds like they're giving me so many ideas for just different ways to do life. And then also I'm wondering where the ideas come from. How do they just pop into your head?
Ideas around event, I suppose. One of the ideas that I really, again, this was a different little business venture. We did something called the Circus of Ideas, probably for a year, and it was kind of like a TEDx style event. And again, that actually came out of failing. I applied with my ex-boyfriend, one afternoon after a bottle of wine, we were talking about doing a TEDx event, and we applied to do it and we got rejected because there's lots of kind of rules around the names of TEDx and the themes and kind of this very set protocol, and we didn't follow it. And I think Bondi's already bought, and we were trying to be Ben Buckler TEDx, or anyway, it's quite complicated to host a TEDx event under those kind of protocols. So we're like, right, what else can we do? And we're like, let's actually just go and book the pavilion. And we were sat in the bucket list. We're like, should we just book it and just put on an event? And we came up with this. I really, really loved it. This kind of themed event, and it was all around getting together like entrepreneurs, artists, very creative people talk about a particular theme in a similar style as a TED event. And that was really beautiful. That was kind of a nice start in getting these sort of creative and meeting these creative people. I think I'm really lucky that I'm surrounded by a lot of very interesting humans who are doing really interesting things. Yeah, so that was a really good idea. In terms of thinking of them, I don't really know. I think again that childlike of just I think it comes from imagination of yeah, I think a lot of them come out of imagination. I don't really know.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think imagination probably is something that is, if you actually just stopped and had a bit of a daydream, if you think about, oh, I used to love rollerblading. Do you remember when we used to love rollerblading? Hang on a minute. Should we buy some roller skates? I suppose it's just giving yourself some time to sometimes think and observe people maybe. And you live near the ocean, so you've obviously thought, well, hang on a minute, people are going surfing. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can come up with some good ideas this afternoon.
Oh, yay. But I think when you're a kid, like in terms of events, and also a lot of the events, I selfishly think often, I'm like, what do I want to do? I'm like, oh, I really want to try free diving. So for Bondi Beach Babes, those events often come out of, right, like this really cool thing is happening. Why don't we all go and try it? And then the other again, thinking like being a kid, I think, you know, you could be in your back garden and suddenly you've turned it into something in your head. And I think we sort of lose that imaginative sort of play as adults, and then kind of find it a bit difficult to think of things.
Yeah. I know when you live in a big city as well, sometimes you're, you know, being from London, you remember walking down the South Bank and you'd see lots of different events, and they do rooftop gardens and things, and
Totally.
that's all. I think maybe there's something around opening your eyes to ideas, looking in magazines, you know, thinking about things that you've possibly seen on holiday and that kind of thing as well, where maybe it's only about opening your mind as opposed to just thinking about the day to day.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. And obviously I had to double check that you were near 40, because it's always a dodgy question. How did you feel? So we must be born probably in the same year, maybe 1982.
Yeah.
Same. Great. Happy birthday. When was your birthday?
Oh, February.
Right. Okay. August. How did you find turning 40?
For me, it wasn't such a big thing, actually. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm 40, and then I'm suddenly I'm very confident and I don't give a shit. And I think the only thing that in terms of like in how I feel, I think I've always thought this, but more so now, that life is short. And it's like, oh my God, I'm 40. Like, geez, how the hell, like, have we got here? And then I think for me, in terms of like how I live life, is thinking, okay, well, you know, you're maybe halfway there, or what? I just think life is so short, and just constantly thinking, okay, if I didn't do this, will I regret it? Yes, I would. Therefore, I need to do it. So I think I've kind of had that mentality all the way through life, but I think it's more dominant now. I'm 40, and you know, you blink and it's Friday again. So I think in sort of living life a bit like that.
Amazing. And what are the things that you do that make you you? What are the bits of your life that you just enjoy the most?
That's a hard question.
Good one, that, isn't it?
Make me me. Oh God. I think I don't really know how to answer it. Oh, sorry.
Well, you've got a dog, so that must be
That's
a
a
good.
dog outside. I'd
Oh,
like
okay. Not your own dog.
not
No.
really. Uh, I think being quite open-minded and carefree kind of make me me. And then I think my big values are in friends and family. So I think in keeping those really close people that I really love very close. Yeah, I think they make me me.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, you live quite far away from quite
Yeah,
a
I
lot
thought
of
that when
them.
yeah.
So as your friends become well, I suppose you're close to family by talking to them a lot, but have your friends in Australia become like family?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one last question actually, because
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you stay motivated when you've got, because it sounds so brilliant, especially Bondi Babes and the pub. They're all very social. They're all very full on. What happens when you wake up one day and you just think, I've had enough. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to see anybody.
I had a big moment like that this week, actually. Actually, one day I didn't get dressed this week.
That's good to hear, to be
Um,
honest. We don't want everyone to be too, super powered at all times. It's unnatural, isn't it?
I think when you've got a lot going on, I think it's yeah, it's a given. And again, motivated, I tend not to think so far ahead. And I just think like sometimes, yeah, I don't want to get up and go to the pub again and put on a face and, get dressed up but then I kind of know, like with the pub, I know there's a team waiting there for me. So what am I going to do? Like what I always think, what's the option? Like with anything, okay, you can be miserable or you can be happy. You can go in or what am I going to do? I'm going to stay at home and just slob about. So I just tend to try not to overthink things and deal with things in very small doses. Otherwise, it is complete overwhelm and I would be unmotivated. So I think just, yeah, thinking about things in very, very small chunks.
That's a very good bit of advice. I think as someone that at times can struggle with her sleep, I think that it's realizing that things don't make molehills into mountains. Whereas actually, if you think little steps, the worst doesn't happen. That's probably one thing that would help.
Yeah. Oh, yuck.
It's just been a recent thing. We'll be okay. Thank you so much for your time, Amy. I'm so looking forward to see what happens next with the pub and with Bondi Beach Babes. And I do think that you could surely host an event. I'm imagining like a gigantic festival for like 7,500.
Easy.
There we go. I'm thinking like a child.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for talking to us and for inspiring us all. And I think there's been some really strong messages around the importance of community and friendship and looking out for each other. So massively appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks for having me.